Welcome to Living in Beauty. It's Saturday, March 7th, 2020, day 1328 on the road, and we're boondocking along the Colorado River outside of San Diego. No need for an N95 mask here, just sunshine and fresh air. Nothing but a herd of donkeys and an excellent cell signal to keep us company. Turns out this Wild West SoCal desert adventure is an ideal strategy for these uncertain times. And more than ever, we're convinced there's no place quite like California. And there's a place in the Sonoran Desert at the foot of the Chocolate Mountains and east of the Salton Sea where those who have the sand can live for free. Free from rent, mortgage, taxes, and all the other stuff Americans take for granted, like publicly funded water, sewer, and electricity. Slab City is the last free place in America. Slab City began like most cities, with the exception of solar panels, satellite dishes, and plastic IBC tanks. It's probably the spitting image of Western settlements that began 150 years ago, before the rich folks hired a sheriff to force law on everyone else but them. Yet, nostalgic tombstone tourists who flock there to celebrate the charm and romance of the lawless Old West with all its hell-raising saloons and brothels would probably shun Slab City's authentic ramshackle patina and declare it off-putting, filthy, profane. In fact, Slab City may well be the last true remnant of the pioneering Old West. Slabbers, what Slab City citizens call themselves, are mostly refugees from war culture, consumer culture, and corporate culture. For the most part, they grew up as normies, what Slab citizens call the rest of us, inherited the American dream, the envy of the developing world, and chucked it all to rebuild their lives as they see fit. And most Slabbers would say it's a hard but rewarding life. Driving west, outside of the junk-strewn perimeter of Slab City toward Nyland, there's a sign on the side of the road that reads, "Danger, reality ahead." A reminder that everything inside those 640 acres is outside of what most Americans are able to tolerate, and vice versa. At best, Slab City brings freedom lovers to their knees, and at worst, makes one hyper-aware of how little freedom the average American can actually tolerate. And for visitors, that revelation can either be a painful or a glorious awakening. For example, let's begin with God. The message of unconditional divine love is free of charge because Leonard Knight, a visionary American folk artist, dedicated his life to sharing God's love with the world. Despised and rejected by institutions of religion, Leonard took that experience and let it make him stronger. He left the real world and brought his genius to Slab City. If Leonard had been accepted by organized religion rather than ridiculed and marginalized, Salvation Mountain would probably be nothing but dirt. Leonard arrived accidentally, on the heels of a failed helium balloon testimonial project, but he immediately recognized an opportunity to continue his large-scale gospel message, and he made a mountain with his bare hands. Using thousands of hay bales, adobe, paint, and heaps of discarded junk handpicked from the salt-crusted discard strewn across the neglected Salton Sea desert, the refuse of a lost society, Leonard built Salvation Mountain. And for decades, Leonard Knight's message of unconditional love to humankind has reached far and wide. Salvation Mountain is an award-winning national landmark, attracting crowds of pilgrims, curiosity seekers, and lovers. But the edification doesn't end there. Those with the curiosity and desire can go deeper into Slab City. East Jesus is a fabulous resource for art and culture. Warning, bring the children, but only if you're prepared to answer difficult questions. And remember that nudity is always possible. So, the big question, Why do they call it Slab City? Well, when Camp Dunlap, an old Marine base, was decommissioned after World War II, the Marines removed every stick of every building, leaving only the concrete foundations. Several veterans stayed behind and set up camps on the slabs. Then, due to a bureaucratic snafu, the land fell into a jurisdictional vortex between the feds and the state. The county and state floated plans to sell the land and relocate the slabbers, but currently things are in a live and let live strategy. So Slab City is continuing to serve as a museum of what true freedom looks like. Today, 6 decades after Camp Dunlap, this loosely structured, free-thinking paradise boasts a diverse population which expands and contracts with the perfect winter weather and blistering summer heat. The population includes snowbirds looking for a warm place to dry camp in the winter desert, retired RVers who need to save money, off-grid enthusiasts and preppers, artists who specialize in found art, junk art, and trashion, veterans who are self-medicating in a safe and welcoming place, migrant legal cannabis farmers, bohemian counterculture and free-spirited souls, people who just want to be left alone, mentally challenged people and psychotics, runaway teens, religious fanatics, people who have financially hit bottom due to job loss, health crisis, and divorce. Some arrive expecting to stay for a year or so until they can afford to leave. Some never leave. In other words, Slab City is like most American towns. The difference is that they can't sweep the dark side of the human condition under their suburban tract homes. In Slab City, it's mostly all out in the open. Hey, every place has its problems, and Slab City is no panacea of peace. That's because they have nothing to prove. Faults are all laid out in the full light of day, right there next to the unfailing love of God on Salvation Mountain. Fact is, from a satellite perspective, we all live in the dirt. 1 week in Slab improved our focus on what a truly free society could be like. And our hope for mankind was restored, and our hope for goodness to triumph over evil is renewed. The sin of material waste and the McDonaldization of everything, and the overbearing cost of the non-sustainable Tower of Babel we call the grid, came more clearly into focus. At first glance, lodgings in Slab City may appear temporary, as if the occupants are just passing through. But on closer inspection, the dwellings have more sophistication, integrity, and permanence. Adaptation and survival in this rugged, unofficial, and technically non-existent city requires ingenuity. Only the strong survive here. Old cars become storage areas, mattress springs make good fences, and burnt-out RVs serve as sitting porches and art studios. With so few resources, it makes sense to use what no one else wants. I think half the citizenship must be musicians. On afternoon walks through town as the winter sun set over the Salton Sea, we were serenaded from every direction. Like any city, Slab has a town center, public library, a bulletin board with official Slab City news, a museum of art, several nightclubs, internet cafe, a famous music venue, skateboard park, golf course, basketball court, a mobile pharmaceutical delivery service, animal rescue center, public school bus, and even an annual prom. They even have a pet cemetery that is, ironically, bordered with old tires. Now, we arrived on the night of a 3-day rave. The event was about a half-mile southwest of us, but even earplugs didn't cut the noise. The neighbors assured us that it only happens once a year on President's Day weekend, and they usually burn a car or two. We heard they burned a stretch limo. Next morning, we went over to pay respects at the burial ritual. To receive shipments from FedEx or UPS, it's simply a matter of flagging down the driver to request an official number to post on the site of your unofficial occupied domicile, even if you don't have an official name. In addition to picking up trash and making treasure, slabbers also pick up names like Spider, Builder Bill, Jack Two Horses, and Stickman. It might seem juvenile, but I'll bet there's some serious logic behind it. Ever since childhood, I've dreamt of a place like Slab City, and it's all because of Mama. In the summer of 1964, our family road-tripped across America in our Plymouth Fury station wagon. It was my turn in the middle of the back seat, while my big sister Deb and little brother Carl got to hog the windows. So I slouched forward and dangled my arms over the front seat, trying to catch the breeze from the wing windows. My baby brother Chris was all sprawled out between Mom and Dad, sleeping with Underfoot, the family dachshund. The smell of burp, dirty dog, and Winston's contended for dominance, while Dad sang 16 tons in his magnificent 2-pack-a-day baritone. Mama stared out the window with a deep contemplative expression, thinking about something important. Maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis, which we'd weathered out in Florida, or maybe something else. Mama had a tough and unhappy childhood, and even though things had greatly improved, she always seemed like she expected the bottom to fall out. Anyway, on that simmering highway in the middle of God knows where, Mama suddenly brightened. "Kids!" she exclaimed, as if she'd seen a man selling Cool Pops out of his trunk on the side of the road. "Look!" And we did, as Mama rolled down the window and stretched her arm out clear up to the pit and pointed out toward the expansive landscape like Monty Hall on Let's Make a Deal. "Just look at that land!" And we did. And we saw pine-tipped mountains and green valleys and deep springs with shimmering lakes just a-brimmin' with fish. "No matter what happens," she said, "there will always be enough for everybody. If the world goes to hell in a handbasket, you kids can always go out there and fashion a fine shelter with whatever God provides." Thus, Mama passed on to me a squatter's heart. We love being on the road, but as travelers, we also have an obligation to imagine what it's like to live in the places we visit. Before we pull out, we say a prayer for the people, wish them well, and leave them with a blessing, no matter how small. And this ritual made me imagine what it would be like to survive in 110 to 120 degrees in the California desert at the mercy of God and man. I can't say that I want to experience that kind of life, but some do. We hope that slabbers can continue to live in this humble, harmless way, God bless them, just as they see fit. Thank you for joining us at Living in Beauty. If you like this post and want to be notified when a new one is released, please enter your email address and click the follow button at the bottom of this page. For more info, check out our travel maps and facts. Okay, that's it for now. Safe and happy travels, and see you next time.